The two-child limit is a fascist policy, and I'm about to explain why. I'm Rachel, I'm a public and social policy consultant, and I'm on a mission to scrap the two-child limit. So, bold claim, here we go. The two-child limit places a financial cap on the amount of benefits that we'll pay to families if they have 3 or more children and they live on very low incomes. One of the biggest and saddest lies that we tell ourselves in this country is that the two-child limit is fair and that having more children than you can afford or that you are perceived to be able to afford is somehow a moral failure. It punishes children for the sins of the mothers. It's deeply misogynistic. But why is it fascist? Control over reproduction is a core feature of fascism. Fascist and authoritarian regimes have long wanted to have control over who does have children and how many children they have as a way of controlling their national population. The two-child limit does the same. It financially punishes poor people for having too many children. And it rests on something called eugenic logic, which is desirable or undesirable reproduction in different groups. The two-child limit is a policy that plays to our fears of the wrong kind of people outbreeding the right kind of people. And this breeding fear has a very long history. The fact that we even call it breeding is a way of dehumanizing others for having children. Breeding is a term that we associate with animals, not people. Others breed. We ourselves, we have families. So fascist propaganda really quite commonly warns about others, so minorities, poorer people, migrants having too many children and outbreeding the sort of native people of the land. These undesirable outgroups threaten the purity of the fascist nation. And modern welfare policies like the two-child limit echo this almost word for word. The government has legitimised our fears around people in poverty outbreeding people who are morally far more worthy because they don't live in poverty. So they're going to outbreed us, and outbreeding the wrong kind of people is deeply fascist. The government have legitimised this through the two-child limit. They've said, you are right. These people are having far too many children. We're going to stop this because we want to protect you. Wrapping up this fascist narrative in economic language legitimises the fears that you have. By claiming the policy is about fairness or fiscal discipline, the government is providing us with a moral narrative. It's telling us who is worthy of having children. And we've converted this prejudice into policy, which is exactly how fascism normalises itself. It shifts the blame from the state onto families. So instead of asking why wages, housing, childcare costs are simply unaffordable for the majority of people, it tells us instead that there's a moral failure and that this group is going to outbreed you and they're going to take over. This moral displacement is absolutely the hallmark of fascism, runs through fascism like a stick of Blackpool rock. So the two-child limit isn't fascist because it's violent. You know, we don't associate fascism with things like quite subtle policies that we all believe and normalised is built on fairness. Fascism is about normalises itself through these moral judgments, but the narratives are all quite clear to see. We're worried about others invading our spaces and taking what's ours, spoiling what's pure, coming over here or outbreeding others. It's really not that complicated or difficult to spot. But the result is this moralised control over reproduction. Are we seriously saying only the wealthy should have children or should have enough children to have the families that we want? Instead, we should be asking, why are systemic inequalities making it so that people cannot afford to have the families that they want to have? Having children is not done based on how much money you're going to get from the state. I've done other videos about this, go and watch them. Taking this a step further, when we look back at history, fascists, the famous ones like Mussolini and Hitler, am I allowed to say that on TikTok? The Italian one and the German one, they actually wanted some certain people to have more children. So they awarded motherhood medals and encouraged people to have children. We're not there in the UK yet, but we do have declining populations. And if we look at places like the US, we can see things like the trad wife movement that's kind of normalizing having bigger families, but only if you fit a certain demographic. This is fascism in plain sight. And we're following it along on things like TikTok in the millions. We're being normalized that some people are worthy and should have lots of children and other people should not. This is pure fascism. Two-child limit is fascist. Let's discuss it in the comments if you want to, but I'm certainly not going to change my mind. I do hope I can change your mind, though. If you need a history lesson, go and look it up, because this is absolutely fascism 101. We need better policy.